It's no secret that electric skateboarding can be pretty dangerous, with people regularly falling off and at times seriously injuring themselves. So today I want to go through 5 ways you can help mitigate the risks and stay safe on your electric skateboard. So I've been riding electric skateboards for over 2 years now, and in that time I've probably had 5 or 6 falls, with 2 of them being the worst. I'll share the story of my worst fall at the end of the video, but for now let's talk about kind of the most obvious things that you need to stay safe and then move towards things that you might not have thought about. So number 1 is the obvious one, that is to use protective gear. And for me that always means at the very least wearing a helmet. Not only is this a legal requirement in most countries, but it kind of goes without saying that your head is one of the most important parts of your body and definitely not an area that you want to get hurt. And so a good helmet is just one of the best ways to make sure you're keeping your head secure and safe even if you take a tumble. When I have fallen off my board a couple of times, I have banged my head on the ground, and those times honestly I was so grateful that I was wearing a helmet because it could have been a lot worse if I hadn't been. Another piece of protective gear that I wear pretty regularly is gloves. Now these are some simple riding gloves that I got from a local sports store, and they've actually saved my hands twice now from pretty serious scratches from times when I've fallen off my skateboard and hit paved road with my hands. In fact, one time when I fell off and hit the ground, it actually ripped my gloves open, but it saved my palms. So seeing the damage it did to my gloves makes me wonder, and very glad that it didn't happen to my actual bare flesh. However, one thing worth noting with gloves is you do need to be careful about the type you buy, because gloves kind of like this can be bad in the sense that if you do land on your hands, they can grip the road and therefore you're more likely to break your wrists, whereas you can buy specifically designed skating gloves that have harder plastic on the palms that are designed to slide across sealed roads. But I'll talk a bit more about falling later, which also leads to the next thing, which is to make sure you're wearing clothing that covers all of your skin. I think exposed skin when you're riding at high speeds across concrete is a recipe for disaster. Especially in winter, I always try and wear denim at the very least and a jacket, because then if I fall off I will have some level of protection against my bare skin. Again, when I have fallen, I've torn my clothes open, so it won't give you heaps of protection, but it's better than having just bare skin. And I think the same thing goes for making sure you're wearing some decent shoes and not just in bare feet when you are skating. And the last piece of gear that I'll mention is really good for night riding, and that is shred lights, if you haven't heard of them, or any type of light that you can attach to your skateboard or even to your helmet. This is a really great way of staying visible and also being able to see obstacles in front of you when you're riding at night. So the second way to stay safe is to just make sure you stay within your skill level, especially if you're new to electric skateboarding or skateboarding in general. When I first started e-skating, I had a little bit of background with regular skateboards, so I kind of knew how to balance, but what I definitely wasn't used to was the speeds that you can get with electric skateboards. Like some electric skateboards go upwards of 50 or 60 kilometers an hour, which is crazy fast. Now when I got my first board, I was really tempted to just floor it and take it straight to the top speed, but I think once I got on, I realized I really did have to respect the speed that the board could go, because as soon as I started pushing it, that's when I had my first fall. It was like in the first or second day that I had my board. I pushed it too hard going down a hill, got speed wobbles and came off, and it was definitely painful. And it ended up taking me maybe a month to really feel comfortable just riding around on the board. So I don't feel like you have to go straight to the top speed or the top gear on an electric skateboard. Just take it easy, stick to what you feel comfortable with, and just slowly get used to it over time. There's no point rushing to get to like a top speed or top acceleration or anything like that if it's going to cost you injuries. The third way to stay safe on your electric skateboard is just to stay within low risk areas when you're first getting used to your skateboard or skating in general. Now for me, this meant staying off roads with cars and just sticking to parks with sealed footpaths while I got used to my board. So I kind of rode around a local park for about 2 weeks, just getting used to the board, getting used to the feeling of it, and making sure I was really comfortable with braking, acceleration and stuff like that before I moved on to quieter roads where there was just the odd car that I had to navigate. And then I worked my way up to riding on bigger roads with more traffic. And again, this just kind of goes back to confidence and making sure you feel really comfortable on your board and feel confident navigating through different obstacles, and also having to think about other vehicles on the road and what they might be doing in relation to you. The fourth thing that I've found has really helped me stay safe is just to stay focused while I'm riding on my board. And that often includes just avoiding listening to music or podcasts or whatever it is, just with headphones, and making sure that I'm fully concentrated and listening out when you are riding at faster speeds, especially when you're navigating other vehicles, things can happen pretty quickly and you've only got seconds to respond, or even like a split second to respond. And if you're not paying attention, that can really mean bad news. For example, once I was skating to work in a bike lane, and it happens pretty regularly where cars will pull out in front of me on a bike lane because they haven't checked their mirrors. And that happened on this particular day. A car maybe like 20 meters ahead of me pulled directly into the bike lane, and pretty much as soon as I saw it happen, I slammed on my brakes, and luckily I came to a stop pretty much right next to the car and had to jump onto the bonnet of the car to break my fall. And the thing is, if I hadn't been looking ahead, if I had been distracted, that split second where I pulled on the brake, if I hadn't been watching, I could have just slammed into that car at full speed, and that would have been really bad. An extra thing you can do to help you be as prepared as possible is to practice bailing out from your skateboard just in a park. Like if you could find a soft grassy area and go at just reasonable speeds and then practice bailing out, so running out of a fall, then this can help you know kind of what to do in the event where you do need to bail from your electric skateboard in a more serious situation. Now last but by no means least, the fifth tip is to make sure you regularly check and maintain your electric skateboard. I try to check my skateboards at least once a week just as I'm taking it out and getting ready for a skate. I'll check things like making sure the tracks are still tight and secure, and also making sure that all the wheel nuts are still tight and secure as well, plus even screws holding in things like the battery or the motor, because once I actually did find that some of the screws from the battery on my X-Way had literally rattled loose and fallen out without me even realizing, and the screws that were still attached had started to come loose as well. So if I hadn't checked it and hadn't been paying attention, the whole battery could have fallen off the board and sent me flying. So you just never know. Just make sure you check all the different components and nuts and bolts of your board just to make sure nothing can go wrong while you're skating. Now, like I promised, let me tell the story of the time where I had my worst fall, and that was actually about 6 months ago, and I was out filming a friend on a run because I was wanting to create an Instagram reel of just him running. And what happened was I was skating behind him with my camera, and I was paying more attention to my camera than I was to the footpath that I was riding on. I didn't realize and didn't notice that it was wet and slippery, and because I was using street tires, I went too fast, and then as I skated past him, I tried to brake, but the wheels just completely slipped out. I lost my balance, and then I absolutely hit the deck really hard. I heard my camera smash, and man, I was in so much pain. It was not fun. I won't show you the photos or videos because there is quite a bit of blood, but my elbow was super torn up. My hip was really torn up. I was sore for weeks, and I've still got scars to this day. So the moral of the story is make sure you're paying attention, unlike I was that day. If you're still thinking about whether or not to get into electric skateboards, then check out this video here where I answer the most common questions I get about electric skateboards. Other than that, hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you very soon in the next video.